I would like you to utilize every moment that you can in working with light. In fact, when you take initiation in the Sufi order, you are told that purpose is to fulfill one's life, and that ultimate purpose is illumination. It can reach a point where one is stirred to the depths of one's being into an ecstasy of light, kind of drunkenness, inebriation of light, so that your whole being becomes absolutely radiant, effulgent, sparkling, and sparkling, I must say that here there is a relationship between being pure spirit and being pure light. The great breakthrough comes when one realizes that one has always been a being of light prior to one's incarnation on the planet, or at least that one carries with one on the planet a body of light that has been confectioned in the course of the eons of time, not just out of the light of the spheres, let's say out of the light of universes other than the present physical universe. Let's realize that the universe as we know it is only a ripple in the ocean of reality. And then even on the planet we are borrowing the fabric of the planet to form our bodies with, and that itself is made of the light of the stars, which has crystallized, coagulated into what we understand by matter. Even our body is made of light originally. It's made of the same substance as the substance of the stars. And in turn the body emits light. Electrons are transformed into photons. There's a continual exchange between the two, between photons and electrons. And we must also know that when we are looking at objects, the light that is fluoresced by the objects, or refracted or whatever, is or reflected, is only one half of what happens. The other half is that our eyes emit light, and what we actually see is a wave interference pattern between the light of the object and the light of our eyes. Now the further dimension of that is that what we call our consciousness is the light of intelligence that has become focused and focalized and is directed upon all things And that's why Hazrat Inayat says the light that we thrust upon objects is more important than the light that is thrust by the object upon us. And so the state of illumination would be the state in which not only when you're walking in the forest you are aware of the radiance of the trees, but where you are aware of casting your light wherever you go, at every level, and that means not only the light of the aura, which is physical phenomenon, but the light of your consciousness, which is not a physical phenomenon. It is what the ancients used to call the uncreated light. The breakthrough comes when, looking at the sun emerging out of the clouds in a marvelous sunrise, one recognizes one's home in the world of light. One recognizes one's identity, one discovers one's solar identity. And when you do the same thing with the stars and you are reminded that your home is in the galaxies, and one realizes how one has limited oneself in thinking that one is a physical body on the planet Earth. I mean, our concept of the physical body, we have lost sight of what we really are, even in our body. And then, going beyond that, remembering having been a being of light in the what we call the angelic spheres, even remembering one's angelic parents, one's angel parents, and archangel parents, or archangel ancestors. And then being aware that one of the purposes of our sojourn on the planet is to bring a new dispensation of light upon the planet. So that very body that is the crystallization of the light that it was, of its original fabric, now serves as a transducer to communicate further light to the planet. Oh, that would be the state of illumination. And it's a matter of our realization, and of course maintaining our concentration and attunement on light so that we don't slip back into assuming that we're the kind of solid body that we think we are. The longer you can keep up your concentration, the more this practice will affect your whole being, and you will indeed become absolutely radiant and effulgent and, as I say, sparkling with light. And when I say that, by light I mean not just physical light, but all the different levels at which we have our existence. The Muladhara chakra with a very intense infrared radiance, which gives you an impression of heat. And as you concentrate on it, you're experiencing intense heat, particularly as you exhale, just that point, the bottom of the spine. And then the second chakra, which is, say, about 3.5. Each chakra has its root in the spine, and it's what they call a lotus flower. The sort of its radiance is turned forward, so it's like a lotus flower that is that is directed forward. Now the next chakra is about 3.5. Its root is about 3.5 vertebra from the, let's say, between the third and the fourth vertebra from the bottom of the spine. And the colors like a kind of vermilion. It might be a little, it might get a little bit orange, like the sort of saffron color of the robes of the sannyasins. And then that's called Svadhisthana. The third one, called Manipura, being the solar plexus. It is an inlet rather than outlet of the whole system. And it's the color is orange, a beautiful bright Madeira orange, at least in some people, in its advanced form, let's see. And then the next one is the, what do we call, heart center, which is more like an outlet than an inlet, and it's called Anahata. Its color is really golden, absolutely golden. So there's a little more green in it than in the solar plexus. And then you have the Vishuddha chakra in the throat, which is green, emerald green, can be really bright green, related with sound and vibrations. And then you have so the kind of radiance there is a little more sparkling. And then the third eye, which may be turned really violet, a very sharp beam of light, normally turned forward. And then above that, that's called Ajna, you see. And then above that, we call crown center, which is, the name is, in Sanskrit is Sahasrara, and it is described as a million petal or 1,000 petal, whatever, lotus. And it's really colorless light, very bright, but it has within it a lot of reflections of all different lights of the spectrum. And of course the rainbow around it is much more intense, at least in a more advanced person, than the rest of the aura. And the lotus turned upwards. And as a matter of fact, as one works with this chakra, one will begin to develop not just one rainbow, but a whole series of rainbows. In fact, that center is so much part of the aura of the planet and the aura of the solar plexus and of the galaxy and the whole universe that, of course, there's no dividing line. There's no point where one says, this is me and this is the rest of the universe. Crown center now interfuses right down into the, say, at each level, of course, the different frequencies of light, but particularly with the light, the infrared, very slow, long wave radiance of the Muladhara chakra. What happens when high frequency light interferes with low frequency light waves? You get a very extraordinary pattern, a wave interference pattern. Now these are things that are happening all the time in us, but by being conscious of them we enhance their effect tremendously. And the consequence is that you feel like a sudden outburst of radiance as you exhale. And that radiance is sent right out into the universe. Imagine that your light actually hits the stars eventually. Now, other aspects of this, of course, that is when you are inhaling, you already start by concentrating on the bottom of the spine at the end of the exhaling, so then you have an experience of heat. And as you start inhaling, again you start concentrating, as you concentrate on the bottom chakra, and what you are doing to your body at that time by your concentration is a phenomenon which is called phosphorescence. It's what happens to glowworms and deep sea fish. That is, we have the ability to burn the substance of our body, and transform it into light. Certainly transform it into heat, because that's what we're doing all the time. But if you transfer your attention from one chakra to the next, what you will be doing consciously, what you will be doing is to transmute that heat phenomenon into a light phenomenon. That's what in the esoteric tradition one calls, the Hermetic tradition one calls, transmuting fire into light. We can do that really consciously, and that's phosphorescence. Whereas what we were doing in the first breathing, centrifugal, is called fluorescence. The cells of the body do absorb light from the environment, and then they get transformed by it. They utilize that light. The electrons utilize that light, which is energy, in order to start dancing, as a matter of fact, to free themselves from their orbitals, and then they fall back into place again, and any residue of energy, of light energy, is then radiated out. That's called fluorescence. It is emitted by the body. So the body is not just reflecting the light of the environment, but actually transmitting it, re-emitting it again. And that's very important to know, that you are actually, as you exhale, as in the centrifugal practice, that your body itself is emitting light. Not just sending out the same light that you receive. It passes through a whole process in your body. But in addition to that, you are phosphorescing, so that you are also sending out light that has been generated in your own body. And now there's a further phenomenon, which I hope that we shall be investigating a little more at 9 o'clock. And that is, as you discover the space within, like the white hole, as I called it, you realize that there is a fresh, an emergence of fresh lease of light from within that is not the product of the convergence of the light of the universe such as we know it, but let's say of another universe behind this physical universe. And so you're sending out new light into the universe, into the physical universe. This is a very extraordinary realization. And I would the best moment to work with that is when you insert a period of retention breath between the inhaling and the exhaling. Because as you're inhaling, you may be concentrating on drawing the light of the universe into your aura, and as you exhale, you're conscious of radiating the light of your aura into the universe. But as you hold your breath, at that moment you may be conscious of the internal light that is welling up from another universe in the depth of your being. Now, of course, I've asked myself, what is the difference between this light that one comes across when one turns within, and the light that one is experiencing as one moves one shifts one's consciousness upwards in the ascending, descending meditation on light. I'm not quite sure, but I think I see a difference in that as you go into the ascending meditation, you're discovering other spheres, a whole gamut, a whole hierarchy of spheres of light. As Hildegard of Bingen once said, she was concentrating on the light above the head, and she said, one experiences a lot of light, and then all of a sudden that light appears like a gate that opens up into a further sphere of light where the light is even more bright, and then even that becomes like a gate through which one enters into a still higher sphere of light, and still brighter, and but more, perhaps less physical, less like what one understands by light in one's usual experience. What one understands by the light as one turns within is it's a very intriguing thought. It's that the physical world really exists in two complementary states, but we only experience it normally in one of those complementary states, which is what Dr. David Bohm calls the explicate state. And it also exists in the implicate state, but that's like radio waves that are everywhere at the same time, but we don't generally experience the physical world that way, where everything is everywhere, you see. And Hazrat Pir Vilayat calls this the all-pervading light. And quite rightly he says that the all-pervading light tends to contract into a point and then radiate from that point. That's exactly what scientists call the Big Bang. You see it all. The radiance of the universe gets, the all-pervading radiance of the universe gets focalized into a very intense point, and then from there it radiates into it expands, and that's what the Big Bang. Oh, in the same way, this internal light that we experience does not have a source. That's why Moshe calls it all-pervading. But as we exhale, then of course it gets radiated, and therefore it is now focalized in a source which now radiates as one's aura. Now, one more aspect of the work with light, and then at 9 o'clock we'll be going into this, the ability to turn within and discover this whole inner world. For the moment, I would like, to go into what we call the zikr of light. First of all, I think I mentioned yesterday that one can churn the electromagnetic field. sensitive person is able to, you were able, when you were churning your electromagnetic field, perhaps you were able to feel that there was an energy field there was a force field there, even though it might be very weak. And it's certainly stronger on the top of the head. Now, a sensitive person is able to feel, the zone of the electromagnetic field has a kind of a threshold, although it does peter out in the universe, but still there's a kind of threshold situation there. And that's not very far from the surface of the body in most people, although in some, of course, it becomes gigantic. But then there's another field that extends up to another zone, that represents another zone that extends a few centimeters from, maybe even 50 centimeters from the body. That would be 1.5 feet, or even 2 feet from the body. And in the case of a more, and if you're meditating, it becomes much wider, and it might reach, of course, several feet or several yards even. There's another field. And the extraordinary thing is that at that threshold, there's a kind of flickering of light. It flickers. And one might even say that that's where the aura is being felt. It's just that the first threshold, and then the second threshold, and then of course there are further and further thresholds. Like once more you're churning your magnetic field, but this time the motion of the head is moving clockwise. That is, if you're a clock, that is, the head would be turning to the left shoulder, solar plexus, right shoulder, and right up to the head. And you can keep on churning like that, keep on moving in a circle, whirling your head. So you're churning the, first of all, magnetic field, and secondly, the second field, let's say you call it the biofield. And as you do this, you are causing light to flicker at least the place it's most perceptible. It's right at the, as I said, the threshold between, let's say, of the second zone, which is about 2 feet from your body. It could vary according to how you develop in the course of the retreat. Now you do this as you exhale. Now when the head is up, has reached the top, at one of the points when the head has reached the top, reached the zenith, turned towards the zenith, then you turn the head, you flip the head down all of a sudden as you inhale. And you're conscious of investing that aura with the light with celestial light, let's say, with the light of the spheres. And as you inhale, then you concentrate on the ascending breathing practice that we were doing, going from one chakra to the next. And then hold your breath, experiencing yourself as the light of the pure divine intelligence beyond the spheres, even the light that you have always been in the beginning of time. The light, it's not a physical light, of course, it's just a light of intelligence. And now you, as you exhale, now you invest your whole body with that light. I mean your aura with that light. Now you just give yourself a pause. Oh yes, well, you could as you inhale now, concentrate on drawing the energy of the light energy of the universe into your, towards you, I mean converging it into your aura. And now you start exhaling, getting into the circle again. Up as you inhale, reaching right up into the spheres of light until you reach a point when you experience yourself as a luminous intelligence, holding your breath. And then you cast the light of intelligence down upon your aura as you exhale. And all of a sudden there's an outburst of light in your aura. And this is what the Quran means by a light upon a light. And this terminates by a state in which you're not concerned with your breath, but you can just experience think of yourself, identify with just being pure, luminous intelligence. You see, it's not the same thing as consciousness. Remember this. Intelligence becomes consciousness when it is faced with an object. So, that pure, luminous intelligence is the state that one discovers when one is in deep sleep, in a state of deep sleep. And there's no either perception or no imagery. It is the ultimate awakening of samadhi. There's no more act of consciousness. And therefore all that remains is the ground of consciousness, which is intelligence. And I would say that's the ultimate awakening. Is seeing oneself as a immobile, unmoved, luminous intelligence. endowed with self-knowledge without having to experience oneself beyond, out of oneself in the universe. Aristotle calls it intelligence intellecting itself. Or cognizing itself. That's the state we enjoy in a retreat. You don't have to look to the universe, let's say to outside yourself, or what one imagines to be outside oneself, to get knowledge. There's a kind of inherent knowledge that's not acquired by experience, and in terms of psychology is called protocritic knowledge. Like roundness, you don't have to come across round tables or whatever round objects to know what roundness is, or better still, you would not be able to recognize that an object is round if it were not that roundness is inborn. As, let's say, the ROM, the sort of the software of your computer. It's already inborn there. It comes with the computer. And that is what one is discovering in meditation. See? So meditation is not experience. It is discovery. And if you try to experience, that's where you fail and you get discouraged. That's because we're so used to thinking of ourselves as a subject that is experiencing other than itself. We're talking of a totally different mode. And then you become sufficient. You don't, not important where you sit or what the environment is. That's why you can sit in a cell, in a cave. You don't feel claustrophobic or confined in any way, because that's not where things are at for you, where you are, what you're experiencing.